It's October, meaning it's time for the Halloween craze to begin again. As such, it would be appropriate to look into the horror genre, which brings us to Yomawari Night Alone. You play as a little girl who takes her dog Poro out for a walk. On the way back home, Poro unfortunately gets away from you. Leave it to your big sister, of course, to go out and look for Poro for you. Hours pass by, and for some reason neither Poro nor your sister have returned home. Did something happen to them? Are they okay? With these thoughts in mind, you yourself decide to go out and look for them. Yomawari is a simple adventure game. The goal is to find Poro as well as your older sister. What starts off as a simple task quickly goes wrong. The town is now filled with all sorts of spirits out to get you. The only weapon you have at your disposal are light sources just so you have the ability to see them. Your only means of escape is to hide behind a bush or behind a board, or of course, pausing the game and choosing just to go home and start over again. Note that the game actually has a narrative structure, so it's not like going back home is a big deal. While the goal of the game is to find your missing loved ones, it's not the only thing to do. There are quite a few extra events around your new nightlife. At one instance, you might come across some chickens that need to be put back into their coop, or putting an eye into a Daruma that's chasing you, or even worse, picking up a phone call only to hear a ghost saying it's right behind you and ready to kill you. The controls are pretty simple overall. You can walk, run, or tiptoe your way around town, and hopefully avoid foes by doing so. When you run, your stamina bar will decrease. Be aware though, after a certain point, your stamina bar will actually decrease faster, so it's actually smaller than it looks. To make matters worse, when an enemy is nearby, it'll decrease even faster, so be on the lookout. That said, you don't actually have to watch out for them. The game gives you cues that death is just around the corner. For instance, when a spirit is nearby, you'll actually be able to hear your heartbeat, and the faster it gets, the closer they are. With your flashlight, you can also uncover hidden enemies that can only be seen via a light source. That's not the only thing the flashlight is there for either. Without it on, you can't hide nor pick up items from off the ground. As a horror game, the game relies on atmosphere to get its point across. While there are no NPCs to talk to, the town is very much alive, as it's filled with spirits everywhere you turn. Every time you turn around, it feels like something new is going to come out and get you. For instance, at one point I foolishly stepped over a sewer drain only for a hand to come down and grab me from under. Thankfully, coming across this doesn't automatically mean game over, if you're lucky. In my situation, out of nowhere, 4 spirits that only had one huge eye surrounded me. Said eyes turned into a mouth, and you can only guess what happened from there. Besides that, what adds to the atmosphere is the music, and mostly is the lack thereof. Most of the time it's just crickets, only for your heartbeat to go up and down depending on the current situation. There's a lack of dialogue as well. Of course, when a little girl is by herself, there's only so much she can say when the only thing possibly on her mind is looking for Poro and her sister. But even then, the game uses environmental storytelling to fill the gaps. However, that shouldn't be spoiled. Interestingly enough, the game's atmosphere isn't the only thing that brings the horror of this game to life either. It's the game's entire aesthetic. I'm sure all of the spirits here can be found inside of a Japanese yokai textbook or online, but some of them look absolutely deranged. What are supposed to be children and adults are stick figures. There are spirits made up of just ears, and there are just some things that are just flat out undescribable. Spirits like these work out super well due to the fact that the main character is just a child out alone in the middle of the night, no less. Said child is just a simple 3D model as well, whereas everything else is incredibly detailed. Speaking of which, the game even goes the extra mile, making the town map look like a child drew it. This goes for other things as well. When you pick up an item, its image in your scrapbook will look like a child drew it, and its entry looks like a child's handwriting as well. If there's only one thing that needs to be absolutely addressed, however, is what this game calls Quicksaves. In the game, there are Jizo statues that you visit. These statues will allow you to quick save, as well as teleport to any other statue you come across. The problem is that the quick saves aren't the standard quick saves as most games use them. These are actually just checkpoints. This is something the game doesn't tell you, and I had to find that out the hard way when I turned off the game, only to see that nothing saved at all when I came back to it. You see, when you quick save at a statue and you die, you will respawn at said statue instead of at home, which is fine and dandy. But the problem is the game calls them quick saves, which in all retrospects they aren't. They're checkpoints, which will be confusing to most players. At the end of the day, believe it or not, this game goes much further than looking for your dog and sister. Ultimately, it's a coming-of-age story about coming to terms with one's actions and understanding life and death. Between that and the game's atmosphere and aesthetics, the game doesn't look like much, but it certainly brings a lot to the table. Outside of the whole quick saves or just checkpoints bit, the game barely has any faults that could be recalled. And that does it for our review of Yomawari Not Alone. To see a more detailed and fully written review, be sure to check out our website, gaminggammon.com. A link will be provided for the full written review down in the description bar below. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a comment down in the comment section below letting us know what you guys thought of the review and this game in general, if you'll be picking it up or not. And be sure to subscribe for future Let's Plays and reviews on this channel. And as always everyone, this is Gamalad signing off.